the Center for Community Engagement, Environmental Justice, and Health. We've had a really great day of sessions, and I'm really excited for us to hear for the final session, Voice from the Fenceline, Leadership and Resistance in Cancer Alley. So this will be headed off and run by Stiv Wilson and Megan Ponder from the Peak Plastic Foundation, and I will turn it over to them to introduce the rest of our fantastic panelists for this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you all for being here. This is exciting. We started working with all the panelists here just this summer on a new film project to look at sort of the threats of the oil and gas industry in Cancer Alley and the impacts on residents and the leadership in these spaces that are working to fight back. We're actually right now in the Ohio River Valley as well, talking to residents who are experiencing similar things from the oil and gas industry here. And what we're going to do today is we're going to introduce you to our panelists who are ultimately going to introduce themselves. Our introduction is going to come in the form of a short film. We started this project to ultimately make a full-length feature documentary in follow-up to our previous documentary, The Story of Plastic. And we're going to be working with all these panelists to produce that film. Or the next film we're mounting right now. And we're going to be putting out these short pieces starting September 2nd, where we're going to be pressuring the Biden administration to stop new permitting of oil and gas infrastructure, which in many cases being used to make more plastic, as well as create a pathway for communities at the fence line to participate in the regulatory process. One of the things we've noticed in this work is that the people who are most impacted by the greed and wealth of the oil and gas industry are not able to participate in the rulemaking about what the air is going to be that they're breathing. What is the water they're going to be drinking? And we are going to demand as a movement to stop that and to make sure that these folks are leading in that discussion because without them, we're not going to be able to develop the right kind of policy that is actually going to address the harm that they experience day in and day out. We're very grateful to the folks on this panel for letting us help to tell their stories, and we'll continue to be working with them to build capacity, get resources into their work, and scale and build power together. So the way we'd like to kick it off is, first, I would like to talk to Ms. Barbara Washington and just have her briefly introduce herself, and then we're going to show a short video featuring Ms. Barbara, and then we're going to do that sort of round robin, and then we're going to open up the discussion. All of these women have lived in this region in Cancer Alley their whole lives, and they have family legacy here. So I'm excited to be at the question and answer portion because you really can get a sense of what it is like to live in these spaces because they deal with this every single day of their lives. So Ms. Barbara, take it away. We'd love to hear who you are and talk a little bit about Inclusive Louisiana, and then we'll show you a short film.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Barbara Washington, and I live on the east bank of the mighty Mississippi River in the 4th District of Convent, Louisiana. And I am a member of Inclusive Louisiana and also a member of CADA. I'm a member of Inclusive Louisiana, which was started in November of 2020. And we saw so much injustice in our air, water, and our soil. So the three of us, Gail and Myrtle and I, decided to get out there and just work. We were retired, all of us were retired. And so we just voices from the fence line that are allowing the Lord to use us as vessels to be a blessing to everyone in our community. Inclusive Louisiana is a grassroots community advocate organization. And with our beliefs in our Christian faith, we are concerned about the injustices that we see every day over our air, our water, and our soil. And our purpose is to educate, advocate, and instruct, and tell everybody that there is a better way for us to live than being bombarded by industry, polluting our air, water, and soil every day of our lives. We see so much of that happening. We see so many of our loved ones and friends who have died from either chronic illnesses, cancer, my sister being one of them. And so we decided that we just wasn't gonna sit around and just be grandmas and aunties or whatever. We was just gonna be out there doing something for the good of the people. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. And then now we're going to show a little clip featuring Ms. Barbara and some of the work of Inclusive Louisiana. And we're going to need the ability to screen share. And right now that's disabled. Sorry.
And you now have it.
Thank you.
I would like to tell my story. I live on the east bank of the Mississippi River along a corridor that is called Cancer Alley. I am a 5th generation granddaughter of a phenomenal woman who came out of slavery and purchased 34 acres of land in 1874, and that land is still in our family. I am fighting to keep what we have and to send it on to our next generation.
Thank you so much. These clips will tell you about how you're going to share them towards the end, but they'll be publicly released on September 2nd for everybody to use. But right now, I'd love to introduce Miss Gail, who is also with Inclusive Louisiana, and she can introduce herself and her work and her experiencing living in the same region, town over. But yes, Miss Gail, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. As you said, Barbara said, I am a member, a director, and a founder of Inclusive Louisiana. I have been living in St. James Parish all of my life. The work found me. I didn't find it, because we born into the fight of life, and we find ourselves working for equal justice under the law. And it doesn't matter what color you are anymore, because laws that are unjust affects each and every one of us. As a little girl, I would see people of both colors come into our home and with problems. And these problems normally had a law behind it. So I learned very early in life that not always the law was just, and not always it worked for everyone. So it's no surprise to us that it doesn't work very well today. And we have decided that we're not going to be complacent and conditioned for taxation without environmental representation. So Barbara said everything basically that really needed to be said about this area. It's really the whole state. It's an orchestrated effort by local, state, and congressional leaders throughout this country. And we see what's going on with voter suppression throughout this country. It's almost as if they want to go back to a totalitarian age, and we're not letting it. Democracy is for everyone, and we must fight to make sure that we bring ourselves to a more equal justice under the law. And I'll turn it back to you, host.
Thank you, Ms. Gail, so much. I love your perspective and your power. We're going to showcase a little bit of that in the next video.
The politicians allow total strangers to come here and put these chemical plants in our front yard, our backyards, our side yards, and you can't get away from them. You begin to realize they only putting in plants in the predominantly Black area. That's by design, it's not by happenstance. And there is no economic benefit for this area because they're expecting us to just give up, move out. The economic benefit isn't even to the state of Louisiana. We're last in everything. So Louisiana, when are you gonna stop playing the shenanigans and start growing a viable economic state?
Thank you so much. And now we're turning the microphone to Ms. Myrtle. Ms. Myrtle, who's also with Inclusive Louisiana. I'd love for you to introduce yourself, and then again, we'll show another clip featuring Ms. Myrtle's story.
Thank you, y'all, and good afternoon. My name is Myrtle Felton, and I'm one of the directors of Inclusive Louisiana. I'm a lifelong resident of St. James Parish, District 4, Census Tract 404. I am a retired banker with 26 and a half years of service. I enjoy working with people, and I'm also a member of CATER, which is known as a coalition against death app. And today, I would like for you all to know that it's no fun living here in St. James Parish where you have chemicals all over. You smell chemicals all day and just about all night if you open your door at night to see what's going on the outside. And that is it. I turn it back over to the host.
Thank you, Ms. Myrtle. And now we'll show another clip from Ms. Myrtle.
When you look around and you see people dying and all you hear is cancer, well, where did the cancer come from? It wasn't here all my life. The community was never informed about all of these chemicals and the harm that it does to your body. You just see it all around, but you don't realize as to what's happening until it has happened. But more and more you understand as to why people are sick, why people are dying, is because of the industry. So I say we have to start fighting back, because I watched too many people die with cancer. And I realized that I am the only parent that my kids have left. So I have to fight for them, for my grandkids, for the rest of the family and the community. because I know that there is better for this community, because it wasn't never, ever like this before. We want to be free like everybody else.
Very powerful, Ms. Myrtle. Thank you so much. Now we're going to introduce you to Ms. Mary Hampton. Ms. Mary, we'd love for you to introduce yourself and your work.
Oh, my name is Mary Hampton. I'm president of Concerned Citizens of St. John. I've been in St. John Parish since I was about 4 years old. And I have 6 children, 16 grandchildren, 9 great-grandchildren. And the reason why I started this fight for emissions in our parish is because we've been found out about 6 years ago that we had been exposed for over 50 years. But after losing so many family members, we decided we wanted to fight. I was determined that this is what we're going to fight for, not for us, but for the rest of our family. So this is why we've been in this fight, because we don't realize how much environmental injustice that we've had, because there's so many companies have come into our area without even knowing they were going to be there. And we are the one who's not getting the money from the plants. We are getting the emissions. Everybody's getting emissions. So this is why we fight. And we're going to fight until the very end. When you lose family members, it puts a toll on your life, because as a grandparent, I've lost my son-in-law and my daughter-in-law with small kids. So I have to step in and be father and mother to these children. So that in itself puts a lot of strain on a grandparent. So this is why we fight. Now yield back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Mary. Apologize for interrupting. There was a little lag in my screen, but we're now going to show a clip from Ms. Mary Hampton, please.
Everybody in this street, I guarantee you, you're not going to, every day somebody's going to show you this little nebulizer that you keep in your purse. Everybody has to use them, even the children. That's how bad the air is. I feel if EPA would do their job, regulate these plants, stay on top of them, we would be much better off. But they're giving them all kind of excuses not to get there. But at the same time, we're still dying. We're still sick. I don't know if they want you to move. Right now, I couldn't sell my house for $50. Who wants to move in Cancer Alley? We want it now. Bring the production down until you find a safe way to operate. We have the right to have clean air, clean water, and clean soil. If they can't let us live clean, they need to shut it down.
Thank you, panelists. We'd love to start opening it up to questions that the audience can put in the chat, but we have a few questions we'd like to kick it off for each of our panelists, and I'm going to kind of go backwards. I'd love to start with a question to Ms. Hampton. Ms. Hampton, you live right next to a plant, the DuPont Denka plant, which manufactures neoprene. Can you tell us a little bit about the concerns in your community from living next to the plant, and what kind of pollutants you are being subjected to, and how the state has sort of responded to your concerns?
Living next to the plant, it's really is a toxic place to live in. The people on the fence line, there are so many people in that area that has died with cancer. If you pass through the area, there's every other house or every house somebody either has or has had cancer. We have gone to the state LDQ. We first started out 5 years ago. LDQ came to St. John Parish. We insisted they come to talk to us. And they called us fearmongers. We were just spreading fear among the community. Our local government, they rather hear what EPA has to say than what we have to say. EPA, LDQ has not really done anything for us. Right now, since we have the new administration, they're coming forward. They're hearing our stories. But we have been fighting this almost 6 years, 5.5 years. And it's really scary, especially right now, because being exposed with our body being compromised, we have people that's getting this coronavirus. They're getting, right now we have kids in school. There are 2 classrooms at the 5th ward that we've been fighting for the school to be moved since from the very beginning, because the health department has says that the admission there was so high, nobody can live in that admission. But they have excuses on top of excuses. And they're still there. So now the kids are in school. In fact, I just put 1,000 masks at the school for the kids to make sure they had masks at the school. Then I find out a couple of days later, there are 2 classrooms of quarantined kids because the coronavirus is in that school again. So every day we fear. I'm so afraid for our kids. I don't have anybody at 5th ward. My kids are in the La Crosse area. But every day I see the buses pass, they go to 5th ward, and I keep saying, we're gonna get this call one day, somebody has died before me. It's the babies that are there. The tiny babies from the pre-K on the babies. And the state or the school system has not doing anything. It's all about the money in this parish. They all about the money, but nothing is being done that should be done when it comes to the admission. They're all with the plants. They give them tax exemption, but they're poisoned up. We don't get the jobs. The people coming to the parish every day, making the money, they take it out the parish. So all we get is the admissions. But when we complain, we're fearmongers. We just spreading bad the words about it. So now we finally got the governor, the president, bringing Congress here. They're all looking to our situation because we've been begging for fight. So we're trying to show them now how many times we have come before them and they've just washed us away. So now they can hear our stories. So we hope that we tell them our stories now that they're gonna listen. But I think they are listening because they're coming to our area, they're talking to us. We had a meeting with EPA last week and our Senator Troy Carter, he's with it, and Cedric Richmond is in the White House right now. So he knew before he left that he was going to help us if he ever got in. So I think all these people working together, we're going to get something done. But all these new businesses that they want to bring into the area, the grain elevator, the passive, all they say, we don't want anymore. We have enough here. We have enough sicknesses that's going on right here. So the whole community is suffering. We don't have a hospital, but we have sicknesses. And the EPA, LDQ, they don't care about us. They listen to your story and they go the other way. So this is what we want. We want them to help us, not tomorrow, not day after. We want it now. We want help. And if we don't get it with this administration, we are doomed again. And they put all of these community, and when they're going to build something, all the white people start moving. They move out because they know before it comes, but we don't know. But they want us to sell our places to them for little or nothing so they can build more. They've been asking us to sell our places because we're on the batch in the river. They want to buy our whole estate. My dad bought his estate when all the white people moved out. He bought his estate. There, 9 of us own this property. We all have 150 for the property. Now they want to come back. They want to buy it. They want to buy it for peanuts. So they can put equipments here, expand the industries here. This is what they want. So they want to just push us out. They put us here before so that they can move somewhere else. So now that we're here, they want to push us out so they can put what they want here. So they want to clean the entire Black community out. So where are we supposed to go? They're not going to give us enough money to go into another state. They just want us out. And we have been going through this all of our lives, but it's not that things has changed. It's just that they found a better way to do it, a more legal way to do it. So right now, we are tired. The younger generation that's coming after us, they're not going to put up with our parents put up with, or we are putting up with, as far as this racial equality. They're not going to put up with this. We went through a lot. And now that they think because they got money, they have power, they want us, they can do us anything. So they killed us with our lives. We have to sit there and see somebody lay in your arms and die, or lay in a bed and suffer because they're dying. We know we're all gonna die. But if you're gonna be suffering for something that maybe could have been prevented, I mean, that really hurts. It hurts the whole universe, actually. So this is what our community is going through. Because when one hurts, we all hurt, because we are a close-knit community.
Thank you, Ms. Mary. I'd like to ask a question of Ms. Myrtle. This issue is very personal, and few people have experienced as much impact as your family has. Where do you get the courage or the motivation to keep going after feeling the sort of loss that you have within your own family? And what sort of drives you to continue doing this work?
I continue to fight because I know at the end of every rain, there is a sunshine. And I look to God for the day that my sunshine will shine again for me. It's hard, but it's a struggle, but I go through it because I know one day I will see the end, and I will see what we are fighting for. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be the day after, but it will come.
Thank you, Ms. Myrtle. Ms. Gail, I have a question for you. In your video clip, you spoke a little bit about Louisiana being the last in every ways. And the promise of so many of these companies is that there'll be shared economic benefit to the community, that there'll be jobs and there'll be money and vibrance in the community. Can you talk a little bit about what you hear from industry and what actually happens, and why Louisiana is last in so many of these things you described in your video?
Well, through living life experience and really researching, we now know that over 80 years ago, Louisiana had made a love contract with the industry, and at 99.97% tax exemption. And actually it rips the average everyday homeowner or property owner off. So back in 79, we went to what you call home rule charter. And so it was like, okay, now you can take the money from these plants that come into your area, and you have oodles of money to spend, but you don't have oodles of money because they made a deal of 99.97% tax exemption. So Governor Edwards now has us at 80-20, where they can keep 80 and we get 20. But most of them has their 10-year tax exemption in place. So by the time their tax exemption is up, we'll have another governor. And if he's a Republican, you know where that leaves us. But overall, we're dead last because of these deals. What money they do have, they're always begging for more because they're saying they don't have enough. And you can't have enough with that kind of a deal. It's just a sweetheart deal, one after another, after another, after another. And we're not like Texas. At least Texas made sure they got enough of the revenue, the tax exemption, that they can do something with it. They don't have state taxes. We do. So as far as being dead last goes, we're first in incarceration. That's what we're first in. So, which is another injustice and another dot that you connect to the low economic status that the state has overall. And the blue collar worker think they got it going on, but you don't. Because injustice for one of us is injustice for all of us. And as I said, taxation without really true representation for everyone, we can't have the decent life all of us deserve. Every one of us deserve our piece of my apple pie.
We sure do. We sure do. Ms. Barbara, I have a question for you, and then we're going to open it up to the audience to ask some questions. You had a little bit of good news just a day ago about the fights. I know you have worked on the Formosa project for a really long time, and we got some good news for now. Could you talk a little bit about what the Formosa fight has been and what the result has been just the past few days?
Well, the Formosa fight has been a long, hard struggle, which we finally look like we coming to some kind of an end with. We are excited about the fact that we were able to hear from the Army Corps of Engineers, and that what he's gonna do in putting a stop to any more of their going forward with anything. We know that that's gonna be a struggle, so we are very happy about that. Formosa not only affects the West Bank, it affects the east side of the bank as well. That's why we are in the fight. And that's why we've been in the fight, because one plant, the air doesn't stay over on the West Bank. It comes on the East Bank, it blows everywhere. I mean, it's just not St. James Parish that's affected by what Formosa would bring to the state of Louisiana. The whole state of Louisiana will be affected because there's tons and tons and tons of emission that they're going to be putting out there. And there's a lot of chemicals that are like benzene and all of that, that causes cancer. We already know that. We've gotten statistics from lawyers and scientists and telling us what all of these things do. We know that most of those chemicals that are being put out into the air affects our body in one way or another. It's either with chronic coughs, it's either with emphysema. Your lungs are just not where they are. I know you can notice how I'm talking. For over a year, I've been going to the doctor and they can't seem to find out, giving me medicine after medicine, and it seems to be doing no good. I just recently got a albuterol pump to use. And so we know that those things that they're emitting into the air, that will be detrimental, that is detrimental to our health. Every day we walk outside of our houses and even staying inside of our houses because it blows in through our air conditions and our vents and all of that. So we realize that what happened with this victory that we had gotten from Formosa is a good thing. And so we want to just keep fighting. We know that it's not over. It's not over yet, but it'll be over soon. And the reason why we could keep fighting is because we trust in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And we know that the earth and the Lord, the earth and the gold and the silver belongs to him. And so what we do is we put our faith and our trust in him, knowing that he will bring us to a higher level. So that's where we are with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. And as she mentioned, the Formosa plant was a foreign-owned company, a Taiwanese company, looking to build one of the most massive units in Cancer Alley. It's actually 14 different permits in one plant, a mega plant, as you will, which many of the residents along the Mississippi there were seeing as a death sentence for them if this thing were to be built. We got news that the Army Corps of Engineers are requiring an environmental impact statement.
Mhm.
And if that is done correctly, there is no way this thing could be built. And so we got to keep vigilant on it, but this is a bit of good news. But I think the thing to remember is there are so many existing plants already. And sometimes some of the fights become really iconic. And you know, the plastics movement got really interested in the Formosa fight. But as we know, there's still over 100 operating plants down there. And so what are some of the ways the activists there are fighting back? So this question comes from the audience. I'm going to ask to Ms. Hampton. Has your organization filed suit or sued over any of these issues against the companies?
The community
And
has filed.
Ms. Hampton.
So the community has filed a suit, but our organization has got the Earth Justice, and we just filed a lawsuit for against the Clean Air Act because they did not against DuPont for the Clean Air Act, and we filed a petition rather for the Clean Air Act with EPA. So they in turn have gotten back with us. So we're still working on this right now. In fact, we met with EPA last week. So that's one of the things. But the community has a lawsuit, but it's not it started out as a class action, but then it was denied in court. So there's an individual suit that's going on with the attorneys, but it's not a class action like it's went out to be in the beginning. So that's all we have right now.
And the fight that Ms. Hampton is in, the direct fight next to where she lives, the neoprene plant, the DuPont Denka, is one of the chemicals coming out is chloroprene, which is a particularly dangerous. I mean, all of these chemicals are incredibly dangerous, but this one is colorless and it's odorless, so you don't actually know you're being exposed to it. And it has multi-generational implications as well. It's known as a mutagen. And so, you know, at least in some of these other plants, you can smell it. But when we met Ms. Hampton, she was sitting on her porch. She'd have no way if she was being exposed to this chemical or not while she was out on the porch. So the next question I want to ask, and I'm going to ask this one of Ms. Gail. What are the remedies that you're seeking? What do you want to happen as a result of the work? And what are you asking of both the government and the industry?
We're asking for control of emissions with the industry and just go to renewable energy if they could. We know it'll take some time. On the more closely rational side, we have in Convent Welcome in St. James, Louisiana, we have all of these plants that's predominantly in this area of Convent, Welcome, and St. James on both sides of the river. We're asking for a moratorium. It is ludicrous to keep building plants and bringing them in here when we are full. We don't understand the rationale in that. There is no rationale unless you're looking for power and money. And we're tired. We're tired of being bombarded. And I'm gonna say this, and I don't mean to sound callous about my sisters and brothers elsewhere in the parish, but the haves don't seem to care about the have-nots. When you have a man at a town hall that is fighting to keep industry out of his area, but he say, put it up that road, and up that road is Convent Welcome in St. James, that says it all. But I pray for him, and I pray for the other ones that seems to think it's okay to do that. And I have a call in. But nevertheless, that is what we're also asking for. And as you know, we have the slave grave site. And in dealing with that with Formosa, it was brought to our attention that our parish do not have a resolution of its own. So that's something also we're asking for. And not just the slave grave sites, it's all the forgotten grave sites that allow them to build on top of people or just push them aside next to a ditch and make them look like they're rolling hill. So those are the two things that we most want. And as we have General Honore says, the controlling the pollution is the solution. So I say that, and I say that he says that because we're not alone in this fight. We have lots of people in this fight with us. We have lots of people of prominence as well as of just everyday ordinary people like me in this fight. So as you very well know, from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to Kalamazoo, we have plants up and down. So this is where we are. And every one of us that is fighting, I thank you. I thank you all for making this documentary because this is what we need. We need the world to understand. We need America to understand that this affects all of us. This affects Mother Earth. And that's why we are where we are with climate change, because nobody seems to want to stand up to the wealthy and the powerful and tell them we've had enough.
Thank you, Ms. Gail. Ms. Gail mentioned General Honore, who we also got a chance to speak with when we were in Louisiana. And we're going to show a short clip from him that sort of encapsulates how this process works and how these places get permitted.
In Cancer Alley, anybody come in with a pot of money and said, hey, we want to put a plant here and we're going to bring 500 jobs, they lay the red carpet out for them and they give them a big ass tax break. All of that incentive to industry had not paid off. Louisiana is the third largest energy producer and we're the second poorest state. We're last in education, we're last in health, we're last in roads. You with me? And we're one of the first in the amount of money we give to corporations to come here. So the payoff isn't happening.
So General Henry has been a very colorful character and a great leader in the space. All these women are working with him in the Green Army, and he's becoming a good voice for the region as well as their own. I have a question for Ms. Myrtle. When we were down there, and what we saw is you can't really understand what's happening now without understanding the history of the region. The Mississippi River, where all these plants are located on both sides, all the way up between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, which is the corridor of Cancer Alley. There's all these little communities along the way. And these are where the plantations were. And if you could talk a little bit about the history of families in the region, descendants from slavery, and how that sort of informs why these plants are there and the structural racism that has existed.
You said me?
We can throw that to Ms. Barbara or to Ms. Myrtle.
Ms. Barbara, you take that
Yes. Just half a mile up from where I'm located is a place that used to be called Colo, and that was a plantation there. And so that place isn't there anymore because Nucor Steel is sitting on that place right now and emitting sulfuric acid that is damaging us every day. So what we see is a can field, and we just recently found out that sugarcane burning has chemicals going up that affects our health as well. So when we look at everywhere where a plantation was, there's sugarcane because the farmers lease out their land to the plants, and the plants let them raise their crops. We don't even know if there's something going on with the sugarcane itself because there's a Nucor Steel plant right up from there, and that plant had the grain is coming up. We don't know if that's affecting the sugarcane or whatever, but the plants that are here where the former plantations were, that's where all of the plants that's where all of the plants are. Right now, we see that Nucor is on where Colo plantation was. We go further up, and there's a Bruley plantation, and there's another plantation on another area where a church is. And then we go further down, and we have where Occidental is, there's a Malasha plantation, and that is where Occidental is on. So we see that this is a constructive area around us that's just have engulfed us in plants, and we just can't take it anymore. The sugarcane and the plants and everything else that is going on in the parish is just too much for us. We just can't, we're talking about can't breathe. I'm almost at that point right now myself. And so I don't want this for anybody else. I have 9 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. Most of them don't stay here, and they don't want to come back here. But the kids that are left here, the family that is left here, we want them to have better than we have now. And like I said earlier when you ran the clip, I'm a 5th generation granddaughter of a woman that came out of slavery, and she purchased 34 acres of land. We were here before the plants came here, so we don't want to move. Let them move. That's where we are.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara. We're going to finish the last 10 minutes of the session. We're going to show some of the other voices. You'll see another piece with Ms. Hampton and Ms. Washington as well. And then a couple other folks that we met with in Cancer Alley. And right before we wrap, we'll talk about how all this is culminating in a collective action against the Biden administration and how you can get involved and when these films will be available for everyone.
Where the Dinka DuPont plant is, that was a plantation. We never knew what DuPont plant was going to bring. We never knew what they made or anything. But all the white people in this area, they started to move out. They knew it was coming, but we didn't know. We grew up under this Jim Crow stuff, you know? We knew nothing that was going on. Nothing. They had their little private meetings and they moved. The bank probably financed it. We couldn't even get financed. So we saw everything come up from the ground up. And we still never knew what they made or anything because they weren't hiring us. No blacks were working there. No people from the area was working there. We smelled things bad. We'd get sick from being outside. The garden kept dying. You had headaches. And then after a few years, people started dying and dying. Everybody had somebody dying. And when you find an area where everybody has the same sicknesses, you know something's going wrong.
Mhm.
In Louisiana, pollution limits are in many cases double, triple, quadruple, even 5 times higher than what the EPA says is safe. If you drive around Cancer Alley, you'll pretty quickly see that your eyes burn, your nose and throat burns. It's difficult to breathe. We have a client who at one point passed out behind the wheel because she drove through a cloud of benzene that ultimately damaged her lungs permanently. And in Louisiana, when you go to the hospital and you have a condition that's associated with exposure to toxic pollution, there's nobody keeping track of that data. On top of that, in most of these communities, there is not a single monitor for any of the pollutants that are released directly by these facilities that provides publicly available data. And so in the absence of data, the state concludes that there's no problem. The burden shouldn't be on the community to prove that there's an effect from this complex cocktail of pollutants, right? The burden should be on the polluter, lucrative industries that receive tax exemptions from our state to prove that it's safe.
Those 150 chemical plants called Cancer Alley are having a big impact on people's health and having a hell of an impact on our climate. But the entire government, from local, state, and federal government, don't enforce the rules. And they allow the lobbyists to bullshit them in to give exceptions and exemptions. And this is how we've gotten into the problem we got with this much concentration of pollution in one place. But remember what a permit is. You know what a permit is? A permit is an authorization to pollute. Don't ever fucking forget that.
Cancer Alley sounds like great rhetoric, but I'm not going to really accept that sort of slam upon our state.
Senator Cassidy said that this is not Cancer Alley. He needs to come to this place and see what we are experiencing in our everyday life. Our health is suffering from what we are inhaling from these plants.
We in Louisiana have a higher incidence of cigarette smoking, of obesity, and other things which increase the incidence of cancer in our state. So whenever you speak of Cancer Alley, assuming that it's related to certain chemicals, you have to separate out those factors that could be an alternative explanation for why some folks may have cancer.
My sister was 57 years old. She didn't smoke, she wasn't obese, she didn't have high blood pressure, yet she died of metastatic lung cancer from inhaling all of the chemicals from these plants. We know that the chemical plants that are in our area have carcinogenic chemicals, and they're emitting them into our community. Enough is enough.
I've been here all my life. My ancestors fought for this land. They paid for this land, so it came down to us. Formosa plastics. Why do you want to poison us? Why would you want to kill us? We are human beings. We live here. We already can't breathe the air. Why don't you put this in your backyard and tell me, how do you feel? And I would tell the governor the same thing. You want to put it in my backyard? Put it in your backyard. If this thing is so great and it's gonna bring so much money, go put it in your backyard.
Thank you all for joining us. We're just going to wrap up the session here with a couple of bits of information. So this Voices from the Fenceline project, like all our films, are free and available for everyone to use. And the idea behind them is that we want to put all the attention that they get to the partners who we're creating them with. So our goal with this series is to lift up some of the voices in Cancer Alley and push resources and capacity towards their organizations and be helpful. That's the nature of our storytelling. We like to stay way in the background. This will feed into a broader documentary project, and we're hoping with Inclusive and Concerned Citizens of St. John and hundreds of other partners that will be able to leverage this film to transform power, increase capacity, and build resource pathways to some of the fence line and grassroots groups who traditionally are not getting the same access to philanthropy, money, and as some of the white-led groups are, frankly. And so we'll be doing this investigation in Ohio River Valley. It's a very similar story along rivers here with oil and gas coming in. Here you have a tremendous amount of fracking that is going to feed massive plastic plants as well as some energy as well. But the conditions are similar to what the residents of Cancer Alley are experiencing. So for the Voices project that you saw the clips from today, we'll put in the chat right now my email address and then also our Instagram handle, which is just at Peak Plastic. And these will be released on September 2nd in a lead up to an action on September 14th. Will we be putting a letter to Biden demanding a moratorium, or not a moratorium, that no more permits for oil and gas will be issued, as well as creating space for fence line communities to participate in the regulations of emissions that are affecting their communities. As you learned, they don't have access to that data, and that's purpose, that's designed. So that is our hope. We'd love for you to share the films and support the actions. And that's ultimately the goal of that part of the project, but we'll be continuing to film parts of the story and working with these folks. So this is it. We're at the end of our session. I want to thank Inclusive Louisiana and Concerned Citizens St. John for being here with us today. And we're excited to work with you ladies as we continue to get these stories out and build this project together. Thank you to Dr. Wilson's team and the EJ Symposium for having us today to share these stories. Thank you all for this, and we're out, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, you're muted.
Jeez. Okay. Thank you. All of our panelists have hopped off, but what an incredible and heartbreaking story. I had to, before I hopped on my camera, I had to like unclench my jaw. We would need a whole nother day, a whole nother conference just to go deeper into that, into what's going on in Cancer Alley. But let's keep the discussion going on the discussion boards in Hoover. Thank you all. This is the end of today's program. We'll be right back here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. where we'll have our final morning keynote with members from the 1991 Environmental Leaders Summit. This is the 30th anniversary of that landmark convening. So we'll have members on a panel and do a discussion there. And then another great day of sessions before we close it off in the evening. Dr. Wilson, anything to add there?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Take care.
Okay, everybody. See you in the morning. Okay, bye-bye.